I really don't want to make this video, but
Sure
it is literally a matter of life and death for the people of North Carolina. So, my name's Jonathan Howard. I'm a member of the Florida State Guard Special Missions Unit.
7 seconds.
I'm going to tell you everything that's happening from the ground, what I'm actually seeing, because what they're telling you is complete on the news.
I'm the only one you could trust.
And they're lying. And I'll say this now, I'll say it at the end of the video. The only thing I need from this video is helicopters. If I have helicopters, I can save lives. Without helicopters, I can't reach these people.
That's all he needs.
It doesn't matter how many chainsaws and trucks I got. What got me fired up about this was yesterday, me and my team did the rescue of that 11-day-old baby.
This is what got him fired up.
And all these government officials and social media, they're showing that video, that pictures and video of that rescue, and claiming that like they have some like government helped with that. No, it was me, my buddy Charlie.
It was me.
And a civilian named Zeb with his own personal helicopter out of Wilmington, North Carolina. So I hope this video goes viral. I hope these politicians get fired. I hope people get pissed off. They'll probably kick me out of the state of North Carolina for doing this. But you know what? I don't care, because if I can save one more life for it, it's to me.
He needs Zeb's chopper, right? I don't want to make this video, but everyone is lying to you but me and Zeb. We're the only ones. They're lying to you because they're not spelling my name right. They're not getting me right when they're talking about the articles. So let's get into what he's talking about. Let's break it down, what him and Zeb here are up against. Let's break down what happens when these socialistic red states beg the federal government for funds. Go back on their own convictions, their own morals, the own lines they draw when they want the federal government to break the law. Title 10, to bring in, troops, military helicopters to help them. And how they won't budget for these hurricanes. These red states will not put in a budget for this thing that literally happens to them. And more severe each year.
Trump is the new Adolf.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, MJ, the Chud Report. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you found it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. And let's get into the hurricane season. First and foremost, Donnie here, he's really pissed. He's really pissed that unlike him, pretty much every single Democrat that's ever been in office immediately releases all the resources they need wherever there's a disaster in this whole country, red or blue states, they immediately release everything they need. And he's pissed off because some people who didn't get Men in Black brain wiped for those 4 years, we remember how every single disaster was responded to by him. I mean, I'm out here in California. I remember when he came out here and said he wasn't going to give any more money to us until we raked the forest. But one party in this country, the Democrats, know that this is going to happen every year. You're going to have a hurricane. I'll give you a prediction. Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, all of you down there. I'll give you a prediction. I'll even throw Kansas in. Right? You're going to have a hurricane this year, next year, the year after that. They're going to become more frequent. Kansas, I'm just predicting here. You can send me some money if I'm right. But I'm betting you're going to have some tornadoes. And they're going to get more severe every year because, let's have an expert tell you.
To pay for the Green New Scam. You know what the Green New Scam is?
The Green New Scam.
The oceans will rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. But they don't talk about a madman that's building nuclear missiles right now. That's your real global warming. It's not this.
Sure.
Your global warming is war. Your global warming is going to be nuclear weapons. Nobody talks about that. They don't ever mention it, but they talk about an ocean that's rising, which will give you slightly more beachfront property if it happens. Now think of it, but they don't talk about somebody that's got very evil intentions.
Nobody talks about anything but me. Global warming. It'll give you beachfront property. That's former president, if you got brainwiped, like I was talking about. That's former president Donald Adolf Trump. You'll get beachfront property. And I think, it was Jared, Saudi Arabia's own Jared, who said that the West Bank and Gaza would also be great beachfront property. So the Republican National Committee, their presidential candidate's position on global warming is beachfront property. Kamala has an entire program to build more houses, more affordable housing, and they give people the means to get into those houses. Donald Trump, and I'm assuming since the Republicans are sticking by him, their official position is they can't wait for a storm to wipe your property out, to wipe you clean, to wipe your savings, so the billionaires can come in. Beachfront property. We talk a lot about propaganda on this channel, right? And, I just want you to look at this tweet. A really bad response to the hurricane from Kamala and Joe. And that's not the important part. All caps, same stuff he always says. Negative Nancy over here. But look at the date he sent it, September 30th at 11:53 p.m. The hurricane hadn't even touched down in any of the states yet. You know what I mean? I feel like Men in Black, the first time around, the propaganda from these chuds was just better. It's like they're not even trying. It's like they're trying to gaslight you when you don't even have a stove. If there is an expert on leaving people to die in storms, right? Listen up, this guy in Zeb, in your clean, dry clothes up there. Not wet at all, not covered. I've been saving everybody. USA Today won't report it. Me and Zeb. If you really want to know about leaving people to die in a hurricane, there you go.
If you want to see how sick and distorted Kamala Harris's priorities are, just consider FEMA. F-E-M-A. You know what that is, right? The Federal Emergency
And then you have to read it.
Management Agency.
You know what that is? You have to
and
read
you
it.
read it about now all the time because there's nobody that's handled a hurricane or storm worse than what they're doing right now. Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants.
You got a source for that?
Many of whom should not be in our country.
You got a source for that? FEMA. He says FEMA. You got to spell it F-E-M-A. He has to look over man, woman, camera. I'm telling you, man, this is off topic a little bit, but the dude is burned out. We are seeing the effects of his mind turning to mush. This is not the same Donald Trump from, if you weren't, even from like 2 years ago. No one has handled, if you're new to the channel, I don't have a Trump impression, so this isn't even close. No one has handled a storm worse than Kamala, he says. If I was doing a Trump impression, it'd be Kamala la mama. Donald Trump interfered, right? He blocked Puerto Rico from receiving aid, which led to months, which led to years of deaths and economic collapse. Donald Trump was the king of, hey, guy on the mountain, listen to me. Donald Trump was the king of not knowing how to handle a storm. And that's saying a lot, seeing as though he came after Mr. Katrina himself. And I'm telling you, man, if there's one person who should endorse Trump, it is not Dick Cheney. It is not Liz Cheney. It is George W. Bush. Donald Trump has single-handed made the worst president in modern times. George W. Bush, it was a clean wipe. The worst president of my lifetime for sure. He totally erased that and made himself not even the worst president in modern times, but the worst president this country's ever had. You should be running out there. You should be clawing out there to get your endorsement in for that guy. Now, obviously, when you talk about Puerto Rico, the chuds, the MAGA chuds will come out and they'll argue. Why would we support? Why would we bail out a Mexico country, right? They'll say that about Puerto Rico. I've had this conversation before. And they're 100% serious. And I'll tell you why they're 100% serious. It's a medical term I learned over the weekend. It's because they're f***ing morons.
Mr. President and Governor Cooper, Donald Trump has accused both of you of ignoring the disaster.
He is lying. Let me get this straight. He's lying.
Uh-oh.
And the governor told him he was lying.
Got by the
The
man.
governor told me he was lying. I've spoken to the governor, spending time with him, and he told me he's lying. I don't know why he does this. And the reason I get so angry about it, I don't care about what he says about me, but I care what he communicates to the people that are in need. He implies that we're not doing everything possible. We are. And you spoke to the governor. I assume you heard the Republican governor of Georgia talk about that he was.
Of course, he sent him all the money he needs and called it.
So that's simply not true, and it's irresponsible.
Every Democrat president. Listen.
So I just spoke. The president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back, and he just said, "Hey, what do you need?" And I told him, you know, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
What a stark contrast, right? Biden calls up Kemp. He says, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I help your state? Guy on the mountain, how can I help save lives? I mean, the last time Trump called Kemp, you know, he asked him for 11,780 votes. Here's how you're going to help me. A tale of two presidents told through Kemp. Poetry. Not only that, and not to get off topic, but as you all know, he asked for 11,780 votes on tape. It was recorded, and to this day has suffered zero consequences for that. But I digress. Let's get to now Governor Glenn Youngkin. Glenn Youngkin is a garbage politician, trumped only by the fact, pun intended, that he's a garbage human being. This is what he has to say.
I'm incredibly appreciative of the rapid response and the cooperation from the federal team at FEMA. I've been on the phone over the weekends with the senior FEMA administrator. The team has been deployed. We had our declaration of emergency processed in an expedited way over the weekend and was finalized yesterday.
Don't believe these Republican governors. Believe me and Zeb in our clean shirts in the mountains. Two Republican governors, and Virginia loves that Youngkin. Youngkin. Get it? Southern joke, Youngkin. And so does Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz also loves that Youngkin, who, big surprise here, voted against funding FEMA for this exact reason, because, you know, socialism. The dude on the mountain with his buddy Zeb. Remember my name. Remember my name. Guess where he's from? He's from the Florida Guard or whatever they're called down there. This is his representative cutting the money that he's presumably, although the money was never cut, complained about. We'll get into the specifics of what he's asking for and why he should know better towards the end of the video.
And if Donald Trump was being honest, it would be hard for him. But if he was, he would stand up there and say, Congress doesn't care about you. They just left on a 6-week recess without voting to appropriate more funds to disaster relief. We knew these storms were coming. The disaster declarations were signed a week ago. They still went home to do God knows what for 6 weeks. Your representatives aren't on your side. And that would actually be in tone with his whole outsider shtick, etc.
Love her, right? All I need is a chopper. Where are the choppers? Donald Trump is a billionaire. I don't know if you've heard. I don't know if he's so humble about it. I don't know if anyone even knows that about him. He ranked 319, right, with all the billionaires. He still would have had more money. He would most definitely, not probably, be higher on this list if he just left daddy's money in the bank to collect interest. But, you know, bankruptcy here, failing upward. But I digress. Donald Adolph Trump has a billionaire, 319 on this list, 318, whatever. He has a billionaire philanthropy. There we go. I got it on the third time. He has a score of 1 on that. 5 being the best, and 1 being an absolute piece of shit. Now, seeing this score, right? Seeing this score, he wanted to get that philanthropy. Yeah, that's easy to say. He wanted to get that philanthropy score up. So what did Donald Trump do? Donald Trump donated $100 out of his own pocket. Can you believe it? Can you believe he would give $100 to this hurricane? 100. No. Of course, I'm kidding. He's the 319th richest man in the world. Of course he didn't donate $100, you idiots. Come on. Of course he donated $0. Zero. Philanthropy score of 1. This guy right here, who passed one bill in the 4 years he was president. This guy right here. He had the House, he had the Senate, they had the presidency, and he still only passed one bill. He didn't build the wall. He didn't repeal Obamacare. He passed tax breaks for billionaires. You know, everyone on this list he's on. The people below 319 and the people above 319. So when it comes time to give charity to these hurricane victims, right? He has the head chair of finance for his campaign, Meredith O'Rourke. Let's just call her Mario. Mario. Wonder if they call her that on the bus. They should, because like Mario, like this Mario, you put your money in this pipe right here, and bam, it goes straight into the diaper. And I'll tell you what, I was wrong about the diaper. I was wrong about that diaper around his waist. I always figured it was filled with shit. You know, from his ass. But it turns out that diaper's actually filled with charity money. And honestly, the only reason I put that line in there is in case a Chud is watching. I just want a Chud to write out, nuh-uh, his diaper's filled with shit. Libtard. Mario O'Rourke. Meredith O'Rourke. Here's her LinkedIn. She doesn't want her picture on there. I wouldn't want my picture on there either if I was this sketch. I mean, the only one I could find really just by searching who she was this one. All right, this is the conspiracy channel. It's definitely not what I'm saying, but it does kind of look AI. I don't know. Anyway, Trump's campaign finance manager set up a GoFundMe. Not a link to any of these charitable, hurricane relief, Red Cross, all hands and hearts. Any of these where you ensure your money doesn't go into some diaper somewhere. Just look at that thing. It's filled with something. Money or poo-poo. It's up to you. And just going through the people that have donated. By the way, Donald Trump has not donated at this because, of course, why would he? Why would he? It's a scam. As I'll show you. The Project 2025's Heritage Foundation. They dropped money in this, $50,000. Elon P. Diddy was a friend who also helped me buy X. I'm sure he's not talking about that right now. Elon, I went to most of P. Diddy's parties. Elon Musk dropped several donations into this fund. Dana White, famous for UFC, and now slap fighting. That's the new thing he's getting to. I was actually thinking of the other one. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, Dana slapping his wife to the ground and then kicking her. That's the slap fighting I was referring to. He also donated to this totally real GoFundMe. Now look, not to besmirch the character of the guy who literally has 34 felonies. For what's that? What'd he do? Oh yeah, he defrauded New York. Not to besmirch the character of the family who stole from kids with cancer. Literally took that money from them. $10 million. Not to besmirch the character of the guy who had to have his entire charity shut down for fraud. Oh, look at that dog right there. The dog's looking over at that money. That money's going to get me a dog heart transplant. I don't know what that money's going to do. Well, you ain't getting the money, Rover. Rover, roll over because you are about to get not to besmirch the character of the fascist that obstructed an investigation into looking why his officials, guy on the mountain, make sure you listen to this one when you get back, why his officials withheld about $20 billion in hurricane relief to Puerto Rico. Why would we give money to a Mexico country? Following the devastating aftermath of Hurricane Maria 2017. One of the deadliest U.S. natural disasters in over 100 years. Not to besmirch the character of this guy right here, who not only landed, disrupted everybody inside an active disaster zone, which all presidents avoid and only come in afterwards so they don't They don't lock up the resources needed to protect them. And it can be used for the people there. Not to besmirch the character, that guy who pulled these relief workers from their work to build a little wall around him so he could have a hurricane presser. Look at that. He built this little podium stage with bricks from a destroyed building. I'm sure there's a metaphor in there. And then once all that was done, he just jetted off to a fundraiser, you know. A fundraiser for who? I mean, this sounds like something from Idiocracy. He jetted off to meet with big oil executives. He had to leave early. You know, after all this disruption in the disaster zone caused by the very thing he's going to collect more money from. You understand? And you know what? I did the whole besmirch bit so long. I don't even know what the button was that I was trying to wrap it up with. Oh, right, yeah. The GoFundMe. Yeah, that money's not going to hurricane victims. All right. That's a long walk to get a small drink of water, as they say. But you ain't seen $1 of that. You ain't seen a dime of that. And I have to believe, in all honesty, the only people who believe that this GoFundMe is not just a money laundering scheme for the Heritage Foundation to funnel more money into him, Elon Musk. I believe the only people that don't believe that at this point are the ones like spread pictures like this on their Facebook. Look at him down there in the water, saving people with his bare hands. This is just more money laundering masquerading as charity, then being propagandized into philanthropy. You know, what was that philanthropy score again? Oh yeah, 1. Back to this chud. Where are the choppers? Where are the helicopters? Without Title 10 authority, the military cannot support, they can't bring in the federal government to take over a state. And I think your Ronald Reagan ass would know that, What did Ronald Reagan always say? The 10 words everyone fears. I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help. I think my in-laws actually have that written on a coffee cup. And every Republican, every libertarian, every conservative tucks those words right in next to their heart. Those are words to live by. Well, that is until we enter this yearly socialist solstice. This yearly tradition we all have of bailing out the red states. Republicans will rail against socialism. And then in the next breath, they'll be up on a mountain asking where the choppers are. Red states who piss away their dollars on these culture wars year round. They provide these tax loopholes for billionaires. And they wonder why it looks like this. This is how money is distributed through the federal government. You see California right there? Yeah, that's right. We put in more every single year into the federal government than we ever take out. And the only red state that doesn't is Utah. And I'm born in Utah, so technically I'll claim that one too. 1 in every $3 Florida spends is federal dollar money. We subsidize and prop up, these failed policies of this regional party that could never win in a national election without using the outgrowth of the 3/5 compromise, the Electoral College. And while they get everything they want, Biden immediately released the funds, said, do you need more? Do you want dessert with that? He immediately did it. Even when they get that, they spread propaganda. And they start spreading it before the hurricane even gets there. And to the man on the mountain, him and Zeb, I want the world to know. I hate doing this. I hate turning the camera on and talking to it. I don't want to be here. Right? To him and to USA Today, I want the world to know that MJ and Zeb are sick of it. As far as the helicopters, as I said, federal troops could not take over. They can't come in and fly Black Hawk helicopters from the federal government. The small government chuds that used to make up your party before you all started competing like this guy on the mountain to be the next cat turd, right? The next person to get retweeted by Elon Musk. It's always been a dream of mine. Thank you, sir. You know what I mean? They would lose their collective mind if the U.S. government moved in and then used the U.S. military. This conspiracy theory party, the U.S. government taking over a state to control a storm, give me a break. And also, it's illegal as the aforementioned Title 10. And my guess is, I mean, if you are a Florida state guard, whose congressman I showed you, Matt Gaetz, voted against FEMA. I'm guessing Luna voted against FEMA too. I'm guessing every Republican in that state voted against him. If I know anything about Florida, my guess is you would have to know the helicopter regulations come from state and local laws. I mean, if you are who you say you are. And why do they put those regulations on it? North Carolina, this red state, why would they do that? Listen up to this part, Guy the Mountain. It's so glory hounds, you know, me and Zed don't get any credit from anybody. It's so glory hounds seeking fame. 8 seconds into the video, this guy says, I'm Jonathan Howard. Clean as a whistle. Look at that shirt. Dry as Ben Shapiro's wife. You pat down, here's his boots, right? My advice to you, Jonathan, and make sure you get my name right. You know what I mean? That's Jonathan with an H. That's Zeb with a Z. My advice to you, you want to save people? It's time to grow up. And instead of using taxpayer money to ship migrants from, you know, Texas to New York, my advice is you don't rely on Mario Burke here. All right? Your state saves up over the year. I know it's a hard concept. There's so many culture wars you want to use those tax dollars for in red states. It's tough, especially if you're DeSantis. I know it's tough, Ronnie. There's so many culture wars just begging you to come get them. You save a little for these disasters, which, surprise, are going to continue. They're going to be here next year. And Trump flying off to meet with oil executives, they're going to increase in size. So you're going to have to grow up a little, right? And then if you do all that, if you prepare for this, and this chart looks a little more flat, you're not constantly coming to take money, and then misunderstanding the very laws that you usurp when there's not an active disaster going on. If you do that, then maybe USA Today, maybe I will care about what you and Zed on the mountain think. The Chud Report. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all the new members. Thanks to the people who tuned in live on Tuesday. It was good having you here. Good time. If you're new here, you like this, make sure you like and subscribe. If you've been here a while, you want to support the channel more directly, the only way I really have for you to support me directly is, you know, become a member. $2.99. But that's all I got for you. So I'll talk to you later.
I just spoke, the president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back. And he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, you know, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that. But